100 years in the making, this was always going to be a day that would draw thousands. They settled on the high ground seized by Canadians a century ago. In weather and in mood, it was nothing like it was back then. The scene of so much death brought back to life.
I can't help but feel that a torch is being passed. 100 years later, we must say this together, and we must believe it: never again.
The last time Canadian artillery guns were fired here before this weekend was in 1917. Watching this most Canadian of gatherings, the Governor General, the French President, Prince Charles, and his two sons. Here to honor the Great War soldiers were many of their own descendants. The Butlers came from St. Catharines to walk in their grandfather's footsteps, using his diary entries.
I mean, we all loved my grandfather very much, and he was a pretty extraordinary man. Some of the stories that he had for us were pretty amazing. So it was something that I know that we all wanted to do.
I didn't really know very much about it because he didn't talk about it until my sons were born. But it's very significant being here, very emotional actually.
The Vimy Monument was front, center, and stage. A flypast by replica planes tried to recreate this from 1936, when the monument was unveiled.
I'm a fighter pilot by training, and this is where fighter pilots were born, right? This guy's over France in 1916, 1917. Those were the very first fighter pilots, and this, to me, is the ultimate honor that any fighter pilot could ever have.
It's a terrible state of affairs. And at times I feel quite overwhelmed.
Actors told stories through the eyes of Canadians who lived the war, like Lieutenant Colonel John McRae, author of In Flanders Fields. An honor, says actor Paul Gross, whose own grandfather served in the Great War.
Most of these men and boys who died on this hill really didn't have much of a choice in the matter. And you have to set the politics or the rationale for war aside and focus on the individuals who came here on our behalf, rightly or wrongly, and suffered as a consequence.
Wright Stevenson Waters.
There were many reminders of just how much suffering.
This was a battlefield of corpses. The terrifying roar of massed artillery filled the air.
The misery that was life in the trenches, the mud, vermin, lice, disease, and the inescapable stench of death. Not to mention the constant noise, the barrage of artillery fire, and the ever-present threat of a gas attack.
And then a moment to allow all that to sink in and to remember. On the ridge they died to capture, they were symbolically present. A vivid reminder of a dark chapter. Nala Ayed, CBC News, Vimy, France.